Finance Committee meeting to order, and Becky, would you do the roll?
Jim Sheeline,
Here.
Arlen McLean, Tom Kitson,
Present.
Larry Mamini, Rick Humphrey, Tim Bivens.
And just make a note, Liram is planning on, my understanding, Liram's going to be here just a couple minutes late. So. All right, everybody have a chance to look at the minutes. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last month. Moved by Kitson, seconded by Bivens. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. When you're shorthanded, no joking around, you guys. Well, it's 6. So where'd Charlie go?
Is half a quarter? You have more than-
So technically, you don't need a motion for the minutes unless there's
Technically,
something to
yeah.
amend. So you could just leave the minutes stand as presented and avoid the issue of whether or not you've got enough people to vote on that topic. And the
Yeah.
rest of the agenda items aren't coming up until a little bit later that you need
Yeah.
action on. So we could get by for a few minutes.
All right, we'll get by for a few minutes. So we'll leave them stand as read. All right. Treasurer's monthly financial report. Paula,
Good morning.
good morning.
Okay, so you have got in your minutes there or in your packet, the financials as of the end of October. We now are very close to the end of November. We have all of the payroll processed and posted in the system. So I'm going to just give you a little overview of where we're at with November. So the general fund is looking like it's going to end with a little bit over $2 million in surplus, which will be swept into the capital fund in the next couple of weeks. So it will end with pretty much a zero net income balance for the year. The public safety, now that was due primarily to the income taxes coming in, specifically PPRT, personal property replacement tax coming in, which is a corporate income tax here in Illinois, coming in significantly larger. And we still have never really received, even though we've made some inquiries around the state, we don't really know why it's coming in that high. It's a little concerning, not sure it's going to keep up. Sales tax came in at like 120% above budget. Public safety tax came in at about 140% above budget. So we had some surplus generated from that. So we're going to sweep the surplus out of the general fund into the capital fund. We're also going to sweep the excess solid waste and leave just the 2 million that you by ordinance have set up needs to be the reserve in solid waste. We're going to sweep that into the capital fund. And
How much does that amount to, Paula? Do you know?
then, so it's going to leave you with about a 9 million fund balance, which is 7 million in cash.
Okay.
Because the public safety now owes a little bit less than 2 million back to the capital fund from the borrowing that we had to do to build the LEC. Now, if you remember, that was close to 3 million. So over the last couple of years, because they've generated enough public safety tax to pay the 2 external bonds, you still owed the rest of the county about 3 million. Well, that's down to a little bit less than 2 million. So we've made some progress in the last couple of years. So basically the public safety fund is going to end with not quite a $2 million deficit, a deficit because it's owed to other county funds. And your capital fund is going to have about a $9 million fund balance, but that's about 7 million in cash because you still have to wait for the public safety fund to be able to pay back that other 2 million. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, there you are. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Paula?
Just clarification. I know you said this before, and you may have just said it, I missed it. The extra on the public safety tax is going to pay off that loan. It's not being swept in that general part.
No, it's paying off the loans,
It's like
right,
we just, okay,
yep. 2 external loans, which have to be paid,
okay. Thank
can't
you.
be paid off early, and then the rest of it is paying off that internal loan to other county funds. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Overall, very good news and a good result for the end of the year. Okay. So the next thing on the agenda is memo from Paula Meyer, and did everybody have a chance to review that? The one thing, do you want to,
I'm just going to tell you why I gave it to you.
yeah, go ahead.
So today is my last finance meeting as treasurer of Lee County. So this is sort of the report card of what I've done over the last 4 years, in addition to the usual and customary responsibilities and duties that the treasurer's office takes care of. So I just put out here, this is what we managed to get done, in addition to just running the office and doing what we normally are supposed to do. So it's kind of my report card.
Well, as finance chairman, I'll tell you, Paula, I want to thank you for the efforts that you did over the last 4 years in helping get the county back on a good financial footing and good financial track. It's public service, and there's not a lot of kudos. There's not a lot of money to be made, as we all know. But it's, I'll tell you, too bad we don't have a room full of taxpayers, because you should get a standing ovation. So really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So,
Agreed. Thank you.
now we just gotta get that guy next to you, on track.
On track and up to
Doing the
speed.
same thing.
I think
I've
this is a
been
challenge.
doing my best.
And I'm sure, I think we're all very much looking forward to working with Paul and
Yes.
his tenure in the next 4 years. So
You're-
congratulations on your election, and welcome to the team.
I feel very comfortable leaving him to pick up the reins.
Very good. We don't have quarterlies. Liram, do we have anything from Gredco?
No, other than what we all seen on the news about the new railroad facility that they're having over there. It's right on the county line, so looking forward to see what that will bring for Lee County when we vote to rezone that area this Tuesday, I believe. So that's all I have.
Okay. But very exciting stuff
Very
going on
exciting
over
stuff.
there.
Yep.
Yep. I don't think we have anything from insurance.
We do not.
Okay, no monthly resolutions. Unfinished business, the 2023 budget, and we have the final budget adjustment memo. Did everybody have a chance to look at that? And final budget adjustment ordinance. Now, do we have to, is that a motion? Do we need to move this, or this is just information? Can we do it in new business?
I believe you need a motion to approve the adjustments, since what you approved earlier is different, so I would
thought
take a
so. I
motion
just
for
wanted to
that.
make sure. So this will be moved to executive.
Correct.
So, okay, entertain a motion. Move, yep,
I just got a question on this.
okay. Do you want to get a motion on the floor and then you can ask a question?
Well, I don't know, because I think it's probably pertinent to what we finalize and what we don't finalize. I guess my question is 79,000 in contingencies enough to carry the year?
No, the mic got to be in the mic.
I didn't know if 79,000 is going to be enough to carry the contingency fund for the entire year.
So Paul,
What do you propose that we cut to increase the contingency?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I propose to cut anything. I guess my question is this, if the truth in taxation goes out, is this the final property tax number, or is the property tax number going to be increased to where you can take it out of that number.
If this is what you request under the levy, that's what you'll get. You will not get, you don't have the opportunity to increase it.
But the 6.4 million, is that the 1.47 or the 1.8%?
The proposed levy that moved forward after last month's board meeting is an additional 6.22% over and above the requested money from last year.
And that's what's in the budget, because that's what we assumed that we could get maximum out of the levy.
That was in part why these budget adjustments that we're presenting to you today were needed, because we originally budgeted on a higher number. We have to adjust that if we adjust the levy, and that was the direction the board gave us last month.
So this budget adjustment, or this change to your final FY23 reflects the conversation that you guys had at the last board meeting as to what you were going to be comfortable with the levy. So we had to reduce the property tax line item because we're going to levy a little bit less than what we were hoping to levy. And consequently, some things needed to change because of that.
Yeah, I was just asking the question, so.
Entertain a motion to approve the budget memo and the changes in the 2023 budget. Moved by Bivens, and seconded by Kitson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right, now we're down to new business. We have an adjustment to the agenda. The 3 items under ARPA are actually been taken care of. 2 of them are budgetary items, and the first one has been withdrawn. So we don't have anything to do on A. B, oh, you know what? I'm out of order. I'm sorry, I didn't do anything with didn't go around the room. I'm still in harvest fog, I guess. So let's go around real quick. Ms. Simonton, do you have anything for us this morning?
No, sir.
All right, Courtney. Apologize, but
No.
you were on my mind when I'm thinking, wait a minute, I skipped over somebody.
No
So-
worries. Morning, everyone. Courtney Kennedy here on behalf of One Energy Development LLC. Seems like forever ago, but back in October, we went before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 4-megawatt community solar project in Franklin Grove Township. I feel like I'm measuring time now in bottles. So 220 bottles ago, I was in front of the ZBA. We received a unanimous recommendation from the ZBA, and it'll be on your agenda this Tuesday for your county board vote. I'm just here to answer any questions if you have any.
Anybody have any questions for Courtney?
Thank you.
Thanks, Courtney. Nancy, do you have anything for us? Okay, Keen?
No, sir.
Okay. Mike? Mike's checked out the
No, sir.
switch, the drop switch on the chairs.
I dropped it.
That's better than what I used to do, going ass over tip. Sarah, do you have anything for us? Dean? Yep, all right, very good. Sorry about that. Charlie, do you have anything for us?
No, sir, thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, now back on track. All right, we are to new business, and we took care of A, and now we are at B, the fiscal year 2021 audit. And we have the audit letter in front of you and the audit report. We have a clean audit. Any comments that you want to make, Paula?
Nope,
About the audit?
it's a clean audit, and we'll be starting the next one in 2 weeks.
Anybody have any questions? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to move this to executive for the acceptance of the audit report. Moved by Liram, second, Mr. Mimini, seconded by Bivens. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. Okay. Now we have the fiscal year 2022 year-end budget adjustments requiring our approval. We have number one, county clerk, the revenue stamps. As we go through these, Paula, can you just make some comments on how these are going in and out?
I got to find which one's first on your
Yeah, it's
pictures
the
here.
county clerk revenue stamps.
Okay, so I think that we just had a probably not very good budgeting done last year as to what was going to be needed for real estate transfer stamps, in addition to the fact that I think the first half of this year was a little busy on the property exchange, state countrywide. There was a lot of real estate transfers going on. There was a lot of buying and selling going on. So it came in a little high. So they needed a little bit more money in the real estate transfer stamp line. So we're going to increase that and also increase the PPRT line because, as I said earlier, we had significantly more, like 170% increase over what we expected in PPRT. So we're going to increase that line item and then give some more money into the real estate transfer line item to cover all of those transactions that happened this year.
Why don't we go through these and then we'll make it all one motion,
Okay.
unless there's an objection by the committee. Okay. All right. Any questions on the clerk revenue stamps? Nancy, do you want to make any
No,
comment?
Paula covered it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, wellness program.
Okay, so the IPBC, which is where our health insurance is at, they have wellness money that is collected through our premiums that we all pay and the county pays on our behalf. So that money can come back to the county to be used for wellness programs. Primarily, the big push is the blood draw that we do, the wellness blood draw that we do every year in the fall, that Lori Miller has been so graciously heading for us for a number of years. And so the budget that got put in there was a guess at the beginning of the year. These offset each other because, again, that money comes from IPBC and then it turned around and goes into wellness expenses. So we're increasing the wellness. We got more from them than we had anticipated. The expenses were a little bit higher. So we're just bumping both of those up to match what really happened during this year. This is a new budget. We've never really budgeted for this in the past. Wendy asked for it to be budgeted this year. So this is a little bit new and was probably a little bit of a wild guess last year. But there's revenues to cover those expenses. So
Okay.
that's what that one is.
Any questions? Committee?
Just
Okay.
Clarification.
Mhm.
Excuse me. The money that comes back goes to the wellness committee, does it not?
It is county money, but you guys have designated a wellness committee to determine how you want that money spent. The wellness committee is not, it belongs to the county. It's paid by the employees and the county into IPBC and it's turned around. We pay a little bit higher premium so that we can turn around and spend it on this. So it's county money that was initially sent to IPBC. They're sending it back for the county to determine, and the wellness committee is what you've chosen to determine how to spend it.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that one? All right, so our next one is, sorry, got to catch up.
Is the county board
County board
departments.
departments that are just coming to finance. Okay, so again, let's start with I don't know which one is first on there, the one that starts with workers' comp or the one that starts with tourism tax?
The one I had up was the tourism tax.
Okay, so the tourism tax. So we received more tourism tax than we budgeted. Consequently, again, this is an in and out thing, similar to the wellness. So we bring tourism tax in, and then we turn around and we split it between Lee County Tourism and Dixon Main Street. So we got a little bit more tourism tax in than what we had originally budgeted. We turned around and we spent that. The county spent it by hiring those two contractual firms to do tourism for the county. So this is just upping both of those budgets to match as far as what happened with the tourism tax. We also purchased some things for this conference room and the conference room across the hall. And we paid a little bit more to some grant writer, several grant writers, a couple of them I think you guys hired this year. So those were over budget a little bit. The equipment line item on here is for outfitting this room and across the hall. And the grant writer was to have some expertise in writing some of the grants that the county. So some of that is also going to be covered by that PPRT surplus. So that's what that one is. The next one is talking about workers' comp. So we had additional workers' comp expense through insurance. Again, it just turned out to be a little higher than what we had anticipated in the budget last year. So we needed to pay workers' comp. The bond payment for the LEC, the two external bond payments were over by about $6,500. And we had some additional health insurance costs that we had not budgeted for last year. So we're upping those budgets, and to cover that, we are again taking more PPRT money.
Now, is that the additional, those, the workman's comp and the health insurance, that'd be the additional headcount that we brought on mid-year?
Probably some of it is that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. And that's it for the changes that you guys can make here at the finance level. According to your budget policy, depending on what level of a change you were talking about, these are the ones that can be made at the finance level. There are a couple of them that need to be made at the board level, which is also on your packet, I think is the next agenda item.
Sure.
So you want me to go over those, or you want to approve
Well,
these
let's
first, or-
get these taken care of first, so we can get them out of the way. Then we have the sheriff's department, his budget adjustment. I think this was the one on fuel.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. There is one more. Okay, yes, so the sheriff obviously went over in fuel because we all know what happened to fuel prices. He also paid his dispatch software twice this year. It's just a timing issue, but we agreed for a 5-year to pay some dispatch software, and our portion of that is about $46,000. So that got paid back in December or January. It got paid again this last month. So there's actually 2 years in there. We're kind of catching up in how we're getting them reimbursed. So we needed to cover that. We had enough money in his sheriff fees revenues have come in higher, and his traffic fee revenues have come in higher. So we had the money to cover both of those expenses. So that's what that one is for.
Super. Any questions on the sheriff's part? Sheriff, do you have any comment? Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve from the Finance Committee these budget adjustments for fiscal year 2022. Moved by Bivens, seconded by Mimini. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right. So now we have the fiscal year 2022 year-end budget adjustments that require board approval. So this motion will be moved to executive for full board approval. And we have number one, Sheriff's Department personnel.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So this one, while you added staffing for the sheriff this last year, I think he's not been able to keep himself at full staffing. So he had some overtime that was unfunded, but he also has a surplus in his full-time wages and his part-time wages. And the same thing has happened in dispatch. Dispatch has been over, they have some overtime in there, but they also have some excess funding in their full-time line items. So the overages of overtime, there's some supplemental pay, dispatch overtime, dispatch supplemental pay, and some health insurance costs for the dispatch is going to be covered by the full-time wages from the sheriff's office, full-time and part-time wages from the sheriff's office, and full-time wages from the dispatch department. Is just going to be reallocated from wages into these other overtime, supplemental, health insurance lines. Any questions on that one? John,
Have
do
any
you,
questions?
John, do you have anything to add to that? Sounds good. Okay. So then the next one, we move along, is the county board and takes board action to use the contingency. You had $50,000 left in your contingency this year. After earlier this year, if you'll remember, we moved $200,000 to cover the, after negotiations and raises were determined for the non-union staff, well, some of the union, some of the non-union. We had $50,000 left. That is going to be used to cover some life insurance expenses that weren't budgeted this last year. Some property liability insurance that was a little higher than, again, anticipated. And we spent $1,400 more on our senior services contributions than the $100,000 that we actually budgeted. We spent $101,400. So that's how the contingency will be used, is to cover those shortfalls.
Okay. Any questions? Clear? Okay. Next is Health Department. Oh, that request has been withdrawn. Health Department got taken care of, my understanding. Yep.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So no number 3. And so that's just the 2 that we've got. Okay. So I'd entertain motion to move this to these 2 items, number 1 and 2, for the fiscal year 2022 year-end budget adjustment to executive. And moved by Kitson, seconded by Bivens. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right. We have item E, City of Dixon Intergovernmental Agreement on Dispatching. So Wendy, do you want to comment on this?
I'll just give you a brief overview. Although I have not been involved in the discussions, actually, Sheriff Symington and Bob Olson took the lead on this. This intergovernmental agreement actually expired back in April. So they've been working on extending the agreement for the next 5 years, 6 years actually, over the last few months. And what you see in front of you is the result of those conversations. We're looking at taking the 2 major changes I would describe as being the actual compensation we would receive from the City of Dixon to cover the dispatchers serving the City of Dixon in terms of responding to calls. That's going from, give or take, about $220,000 up to about $295,000 per year. And then going forward, the other, what I would characterize as major change is that going forward, additional expenses to employment expenses, so salary and benefits, going forward will be split equally between the county and the city. That's what's being proposed as of right now. So what you see in front of you is the lined out document that shows those proposed changes. And beyond that, I would turn it over to John. Again, I was not involved in those conversations, just kind of got the benefit of seeing the document afterwards.
That's good overview, Wendy. And like she said, we've been in negotiation probably since last May when the City of Dixon's fiscal year started. We are actually working on an expired contract, but we had a clause in there that it would be increased by the CPI if the contract would expire. Now we've got something, I think the formula is more substantial in this new agreement, where the first one was just right out of the box. We're trying to figure out where we can go with dispatch services and the shared expenses between the City of Dixon and Amboy as well. And I know Bob is in communication with the City of Amboy to have that same discussion, use the same formula moving forward. So the most logical formula we could come up with, there's really 3 ways to do this, either CPI, salaries, or call volume. And so I think salaries was the one that they both agreed on, which I think is logical because then we can tie that into any contractual raises that the dispatchers would get throughout the next few years. And then the City of Dixon and Amboy would absorb that as well, that same percentage.
And this will also cover, if we need to hire additional staff to cover, that'll be automatically taken care of in the reimbursement contract.
That should be in the contract as well. Any expenses related to just.
And that's a major change from where it was just CPI. No matter how many staff we had, it was held to the CPI.
I agree.
Yeah.
The larger percentage of the counties that have dispatch services agreements with other municipalities use call volume. Whiteside, I think, has gone to that as well. That can get rather expensive. And so I think the salaries makes more sense, and it also, from a financial aspect, helps the county, helps the cities as well, and doesn't impact them so greatly like the call volume would. So I think it's a good agreement moving forward, and certainly has increased. I think when we started, it was $125,000 a year, and that was just through the city of Dixon. So you can see where that shared cost is actually benefiting the county as well, and both, because we do have some great dispatchers that are serving everyone in Lee County, not just Lee County Sheriff's Department.
So can I just throw something in there? I want to give kudos to Paul and Wendy because they did a lot of research on coming up with some of those to help with calculate what some of those formulas should be and getting some accurate information out there as far as what some costs were to do those negotiations. So I think they should have a little acknowledgement for their time and effort.
Very good. Well, this is just a little bit, and I'm definitely not the lawyer in the room, but this is a big improvement over what we had. So, good job to John and to all involved. All right, so any questions on the draft agreement? Hearing none, and now I think procedure, so we pass this out of committee and to executive for full board approval?
And it did come out yesterday out of public safety as well. But yes, the intent is to move it on to the full board for approval this month.
So the motion would be to approve the draft agreement to executive for forward on to full board approval. So moved by Bivens, seconded by Mimini. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. All right. Moving right along. Okay, we are to F. Sheriff's request for 32 rifle-rated ballistic panels.
Good morning again. I think we talked about this back in June during one of the ARPA meetings, and then for whatever reason, we missed the next couple agendas. But these are 32. They're really for 16 joint operation group operators, deputies, and officers. So a front panel and a rear panel is why we have 32 in there. These are rifle rated. Nationally, obviously, we're coming up against a lot more high-powered weaponry, and even locally, some of the domestics we've handled and some of the other incidents that these guys are activated for are coming across a lot more rifles. So we need better protection for them. And so the new plates a lot nicer than what I wore back in the early 2000s. They're a lot lighter, a lot thinner, but yet better protection that'll slide right inside their current vest as well. So that's what I'm requesting today, and that's why.
Yep, Tom.
John, I think we need them, no doubt, but looking at this, it says it will also outfit Dixon PD.
Yes, the Joint Operation Group encompasses Lee County deputies and Dixon police officers as well, total of 16. So we have shared costs with the Joint Operation Group. The chief has spent considerable amount of money on upgrading our helmets and other equipment and purchasing new breaching equipment as well. So we try to share those costs as best we can.
Thank you.
So if I might add just a little bit of clarity on the ARPA, as John stated, this was originally submitted to ARPA and it was discussed earlier in the summer. If you recall, as we got towards for those of you that were on the ARPA committee, as we got later in the process, it was determined that the best way to determine all of the competing interests for ARPA money, the best way to determine how to go forward was to, essentially pick the committee's top priorities. So this fell off the radar simply because it wasn't selected as one of those top priorities. And I don't need to remind you that we had millions of dollars of requests more than what we had money for. So it kind of fell off simply because it wasn't selected as one of the top priorities. So that's why it didn't move forward out of ARPA.
So John, do you have on the budget request that you had for this next fiscal year, did you have equipment? Remind me, what I'm wondering is if this shouldn't be, we're trying to fit everything into budget instead of ARPA request and holding that for other capital projects. Is there a place that this would fit in under an equipment budget line item that would work for you or
The only
because
other one-
this is basically a request for capital expense out of ARPA.
Yes, we kept that separate. The other request that I had during our budget hearings was for the rifles. And to this date, I don't know if that got approved or not, but that was submitted during the budget hearings. This one was not because it was already on the ARPA agenda. And like Wendy said, for whatever reason, it got delayed. And I wanted to make sure I brought it up now before I left to see if we could get that out of capital. But no, that was not budgeted for. It was left separate. Separate request for the ARPA funding.
So I guess to move the yes, we have the request before us. I'll entertain a motion to approve this, and then we can have discussion and move it forward on that.
Well,
So,
where would the money come from?
well, the request
You
is,
can't approve it if you don't know where the money's coming from.
yeah, well, it's ARPA capital is
So
what is
that's
being
where it's-
requested.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So Bivens makes the motion to approve the request out of ARP Capital. Is there a second? Seconded by Mimini.
Vote on it or something.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Can I ask a question? So, all right, so in the capital budget, you also had bulletproof vests. This is different than the bulletproof vests that you've requested?
The bulletproof vest should be under the bulletproof vest grant.
Okay, so, and this wouldn't be covered by that grant?
This will not be
Okay.
covered by that grant, no.
Because well, this is probably the amount over the grant. There's 9,500 for the bulletproof vest, but this is a different deal.
Yeah, on the
Okay.
bulletproof vest grant, we still have a financial obligation to meet part of that grant.
Okay.
For those vests, yes.
Gotcha.
That's probably why that's in there.
Okay, thanks.
So is there any funds left in capital, Paula, for 2022? That was budgeted?
Oh, sorry. Is there money left in the 2022 capital budget?
Yeah, that didn't get spent or?
Yeah, so right now, well, if that's not going to be in there anymore, yes, there is 100,000 left.
I mean, my understanding, the majority of the ARPA capital that was remaining was going to be going for infrastructure for the county. Why wouldn't we just take it out of the capital that's hasn't been used? Or, I mean, is it still projected to be used for this year, or is it going to be returned to the general fund?
Treasurer's office.
Oh, sorry. We were conferring.
Can we take Rick's question? I'm sorry.
I was just wondering if the money that's still in capital for 2022 was still going to be spent for 2022, or if it's going to be returned to the general
I
fund?
don't know that there's anything coming through in this check run unless there's somebody slipping something in next week, but
It is possible maintenance will have a few things from capital, but it won't be anything significant. We're not talking 100,000.
so,
So then
yes.
I would just suggest if we're going to approve this, it come out of capital and leave the ARPA fund for the infrastructure projects that are kind of already earmarked.
The emotion.
If you want to amend your motion, first and seconder.
I agree with Rick also. Come on. capital.
John?
Just something just came to mind, and Paul, I hate to have you refigure it because you did such a great job on helping me adjust my budget. was there any money left after we've moved some of those funds from the salary line item and other line items that were more flush in my current budget? Because if there's $9,800 request in front of you, I don't have the paper, Jim, for the vests,
90.
the plates, I'm sorry.
For the
9170.
plates is 91.
9170.
9170. Would I have 9170 left? I just thought about if we've got that, and I see where you're going, Rick, maybe we could pay it out of this year's budget yet and not have to make this request through the ARPA capital.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Your, if I, hold on.
Well, while you're doing that, Tom, you have a question?
John, these, do I understand you right? These plates will fit in the new bulletproof vests?
The vests that the jog team is wearing, yes,
Okay, so we don't have to buy anything else, just those plates.
correct.
Okay.
And these are replacements, so they've already got plates, but these are higher impact.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then the other question, is there any value in the old plates? We'll take them out?
There is practically, but unfortunately, from a liability standpoint, we can't use them. They put a 5-year limit on those, and
Okay.
then that's it.
Just gotta ask.
They still stop bullets, but unfortunately, the manufacturer only warranties them for 5 years.
Paula?
Depending on what you have in claims today, you do have money left. 100,000 or so. I don't know what you have in claims today. We haven't cut checks today yet.
Okay.
And there will be one more claims run before the end of the year, right?
Next
So-
week.
So yeah, if there's anything else you have outstanding, that could impact it as well.
Mhm. So, yeah, you could probably pay for it this year. I'm
I
guessing you're
think we
probably
can
not.
too.
gonna-
You claims usually aren't running that
Yeah,
high. I don't-
capital, whatever's left there is in back to capital anyway.
True.
Okay,
Let's go ahead and do it out of my budget and we'll just quash your motion. How's that?
Yeah, but if he runs short, then you still gotta make a budget adjustment, so leave the money in his line item, take it out of capital, and then anything that's be returned to the general fund anyway, so.
okay, so we're keeping the motion as it was on the floor. No adjustment necessary on the motion, correct?
Okay.
I don't know, what was the motion?
Is the motion, the original motion was to approve the request out of capital ARPA. So, and that would be for this fiscal year, correct? We didn't designate. So this would be for this fiscal year.
I think that was Rick's intent when he said, what do we have left in capital for this year?
Yes.
Yes. So
Not our capital, but the capital line item.
capital line, well, yeah,
Not ARPA.
right, not ARPA.
Right.
So, okay, are we clear? All right, let me make another stab at it, Becky, for your benefit. And you're, yeah, still crop fogging. So the motion would be for approval of the sheriff's request out of capital for the current fiscal year of 2022. Okay, are we clear? Okay. All right, all those in favor of, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
That went pretty well.
Just, it just got to make sure it's all, all this year-end stuff, it's kind of funky. So,
So,
all right.
John, just get that in before next week, before claims next week, before claims committee next week. And then it'll get cut next Wednesday.
We've never bought you anything that quick. It's a record, John.
All right, we are moving on to item G. We have drone replacement cost and specs. Kevin, I believe this is yours.
It is, sir. I think this was brought to your attention previously, but it was unable to be on the agenda because of the time frame. But we had an unexpected, unintentional hard landing with our current aircraft. And the aircraft is damaged. It's a replacement, repairable, about $890. It's to replace that aircraft with a new ship is about $21,000, actually $20,999. I was lucky enough to see this new aircraft fly in Galena at the Halloween parade. It's same manufacturer, DJI. It's a Matrice 30T, and it's the specs say it's 17 times better than what we currently have. There was a gentleman that was asked to leave the festival up there. They put a pin on this gentleman, and the aircraft followed him around, and we got to watch him until he was out of the park. And that was all automated. So that's something we don't have. I've trained some of the deputies on the use of this aircraft. They don't even call me anymore. They go out, pick it up, they go fly the mission and come back. Before, I was always, having to go out and fly for them. This is my exit strategy, is to train everybody on everything that I have, so it's easy for them to continue on. They recently had a car in a cornfield. Lady had 2 children with her, and it was pinging in a cornfield. They went out and flew there, and luckily enough, they did not find her there. So, but it's very useful. Ground search and rescue, law enforcement, they've done reenactments on crashes where they've flown over and got the information from overhead, a view they've never had before. So it's not only my department, it's also with ground search and rescue, law enforcement. So it's very useful. I think you have the documents on the replacement of it on onboard. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I will just add really quickly that Public Safety did consider this matter yesterday, and they did make a motion. I believe it was Sheriff Symington that suggested that perhaps the recommendation was to purchase the new one, but also spend the $890 to fix the old one, as the old one could be used for training exercises and as a backup. If I said anything wrong, Kevin or John, let me know.
No.
Just wanted to let you know that was the motion that was approved out of Public Safety yesterday.
All right, once again, let's get a motion on the floor and then we'll move forward with the discussion. So, and again, this is coming out of capital as the source of funding. So,
Is it capital or ARPA capital?
well, it'd be capital. It's the same issues with the ballistic panels. So we have a motion by Bivens, seconded by Kitson, discussion. Questions for Kevin?
What's our liability coverage as far as our insurance for damages? I mean, was this submitted to our insurance?
Kevin?
It was, the deductible on our insurance is $1,000. So we missed it by $120.
Should have made a harder landing.
Yeah. There's skill involved in making, doing that, maneuvering those kind of things, Kevin.
Kevin, I have a quick question that I failed to think of yesterday. What is your intention in terms of the timing? We just had a discussion about John's budget this year, next year, whatever. When would you be even able to get this? Are we talking about next year's budget, I assume?
That's up to you. Whenever the funds are available, as soon as they're available, I would purchase it because we're down to zero right now.
But
We can't fly.
can you get an invoice and get it that quick is I guess what I was asking.
I think I can.
Okay.
So these are on the shelf, so to speak.
Yeah, well, yes, I buy from a vendor it's a law enforcement vendor. He's a small business out on the East Coast. I have his phone number at 3:00 in the morning. We can't fly. I give him a call and say, Stephen, what's my problem? He walks me through it, makes sure everything happens. That's why I buy from this vendor. But he orders them in, gets them in, sets them all up, makes sure they have the latest software on them, and then ships them.
So Kevin, you said that you're down to zero. Now, are we the only agency that has availability for a drone of this type?
Of this type, yes. There's one better than us And there would be us with this 30T, and there's a couple agencies around us with smaller aircraft not capable of thermal. Thermal's the key here. At night, thermal, even in the daytime, thermal's key.
Okay,
So I guess I have a question as well.
go ahead, Paul.
Kevin, you kind of talked about sharing and with other agencies and that. Now, I just saw a demonstration out at Sewer Equipment of America with the city fire.
Mhm.
They had thermal, they had infrared, they were running a beautiful drone that Sewer Equipment America just donated for them, and I won't go into why. But then the chief also mentioned the city police has 3 drones. If
They're-
we're sharing, why do we need to spend $20,000?
Because our drone would be better than their drones. Even the new one that the city fire's got was about an $8,000 drone. And this one has a lot more capability.
Yeah, the one,
It has a zoom of about a mile on it.
yeah,
So if the law enforcement's out doing an investigation and they don't want to be heard, this camera will zoom in almost a mile away. Not quite read a license plate, but come pretty close at a mile away to read a license plate.
and then how often do we use these? I'm not saying to fly to test, but, and I get
On a
it.
mission,
Yeah,
a couple
I get
times
it.
a month.
An emergency happens, but if we're sharing, let's share with all the different entities and
And I-
actually use their equipment if we could. And I hear what you're saying, ours would be better, but at what point do we try to quit keeping up with with the cool kids on the block and we've got the best toy?
Sure.
If there's toys out there to use, let's use those.
The ones
guess
that
is my
Dixon,
point.
the ones that Dixon PD have do not have thermal on them. And nobody has infrared yet, so that's pretty costly. It's all thermal, so it's the difference in heat signature.
Yeah. There's if you guys want to see it, there is a video out there from Sewer Equipment when the fire department was out there demonstrating it. So just giving you a heads up.
Additional use of that drone, and I know we're working on it. We're having a meeting next Monday about accident reconstruction. And drones are being used more often in accident reconstruction. We're looking at buying some new software that may integrate with this drone that Kevin's talking about as well. So that's another use besides just the search and rescue and the traditional uses of the drone. So we'll start using it on, hopefully, next year for serious accidents.
Well, I hope you understand the concern here, Kevin, because these drones are just like all technology,
Yeah.
because, the day you buy it is the day it becomes obsolete.
Absolutely, just
because
like a
there's
computer, because
bigger,
they are
better
computers.
deal around the corner.
Yeah.
So as we buy these things, we need to make sure that we're getting the right bang for the buck.
Yeah, going over the notes that are in your onboard. A couple things is, this has a 46-minute flight time. The current flight time we have and the current flight time of the area drones, except for one, is in the 20-minute range. So that means we can do more work without coming back and changing batteries, losing our position. This drone will fly, like yesterday, it was snowing and raining, and it will fly then. And I'm gonna be honest with you, if we replace it with the same drone we had and there's a 3-year-old lost again, and it's raining out, I'm gonna fly it and then come to you and say, let's replace it. With the Matrice 30, it's made to fly in that kind of weather, from 14 degrees below to 104 degrees. So there are capabilities comparing the Matrice 30 to the other aircraft that it's above and beyond.
Any other questions? Yeah, Tom.
Kevin, what's the life expectancy of the drone, assuming nobody crashes it, and the software in it? Is that a?
Software uploads are free. So every different periods, I can't tell you when they do just like your computer. They push software uploads, they're free. You upload the newest software, get the newest. We went from no zoom on our current drone to 2 times zoom. They gave an option of be able to do a 2 times optical zoom.
How long should we expect the drone to last?
It's parts replacement. It's a big thing. Whenever the manufacturer stops making parts for those, then that's when you no longer are able to continue.
How old is the drone we have now that you're able to buy parts?
Was 18. Yes, it was in 2018.
Yes, Mr. Nicholson.
Yeah, I think you gotta look at this as equivalent to the new plates for the bulletproof vests, you know. How do you equate money to the loss of life? And 5 years, you equate it over 5 years, it's costing you $4,000 a year. And this is highly more efficient than the one we have.
Yeah, to answer that question, John, I don't mean to be argumentative, but we have to, as finance committee, we have to make those decisions, calls all the time. You know, we have, everything we do has a price tag on it and it has an impact. And we have to sort that out. So,
And Paul makes a good point. How many of them do we need in the county even, or in the area?
We only have one.
Mr. Bivens?
One is broken.
We got to be careful about the need and availability as well. So if we need something at 3 o'clock in the morning because a child is lost, I want to have that available and ready to go in a squad car so we can use it right away. I'm not going to take time to call Kevin. We're going to get that and we're going to get it up and running. I'm not going to take time to call the fire department. We're going to get it and we're going to go with it. So the availability is key here as well as the capabilities of the drone.
Mr. Bivens?
Thank you. Well, when it's your relative, your mother, your grandmother, grandfather who has dementia and is lost and is wandering around in a cornfield, and you get out in the county, as a lot of you from the county well know, it's quite dark out there. And, technology changes day by day. What Kevin, I think, very adequately described is updated technology that the others don't have. But when it's your relative and you're out there, and I know what it's like to be out there walking around in the dark, looking for someone, as Keene does and Mike does and others and the sheriff does. And $21,000 is going to seem mighty cheap when it's your relative they're looking for, or your child. And we've had that happen. It still happens. And that's our number one priority as government, is to protect our citizens. And technology, like I say, it changes and it costs money. So I would move the motion.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. That was kind of a wave vote. All right. So that takes us down to, executive session. Okay. We have an executive session for the purposes of 5 ILCS 120-2, Chapter C1, employee compensation. So entertain that motion to move into executive session. Moved by Memini, seconded by Kitson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Roll call.
Oh, yeah, we do have to have a roll call. I apologize. So go ahead, Beck.
Jim Sheeline.
Here.
Alan McLean. Tom Kitson.
Yes.
Larry Mamini.